Remember when the transportation secretary declared that this was the best cabinet since 1776? Now 4 resignations in and or firings, all women. How's it going so far? Let's get beneath the headlines of Tulsi Gabbard resigns to spend more time with her family, and let's figure out what really happened. Tulsi Gabbard was one of many incompetent members of Donald Trump's cabinet. The director of national intelligence, to which 18 separate intelligence agencies reported, including the CIA. She was the nation's spy master. She had no experience. Let's start with her career. She started as a Democrat. She ended up being a failed presidential candidate. She flipped over to become a Trumper, an election denier, and then got the top job. There were many who speculated in the intelligence community that Tulsi Gabbard was a Russian asset, and if she wasn't a Russian asset, she was at least acting like she was a Russian asset. And Russian assets thought she was a Russian asset for how many times she spoke the party line of the Kremlin, following Putin's lead about conspiracy theories to absolve Russia of any responsibility. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. She then becomes the director of national intelligence. I mean, there were many obscenely unqualified people in the cabinet. Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense, RFK Jr., public health official, and the Pam Bondi, Department of Justice, the list goes on. But she was definitely, in the top class along with her peers. She got sideways with this administration. Before I get to sideways, did I mention you're on the MeidasTouch Network? I'm Michael Popok, Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button here and over on Legal AF YouTube channel as well. She got sideways with this administration, not just because she would constantly be hawking the party line for Russia, but because she was often out of step and opposed to Donald Trump's own policies, finding a tin-eared way to signal her opposition. Let's give you just a few examples. You would think that when we're about to take over a country and take out its leader, like in Venezuela, the director of national intelligence would be somewhere around the press conference, somewhere. But no. While the men were announcing the war, Tulsi Gabbard was posting photos of herself doing upward dog, sun salutation, something on the beaches of Hawaii. Okay, that shows you're not in the inner circle. And earlier, when we bombed Iran, Trump bombed Iran to stop its nuclear program, or so we were told, at the end of February. Where was Tulsi Gabbard during the bombing? Oh, right. She was making an Instagram video in Hiroshima, Japan, about the horrors of bombing and nuclear weapons. Play the clip.
I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction on Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. As we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
That in particular reportedly got her called on the carpet in the White House. According to the New York Times, Donald Trump called Tulsi Gabbard in and read her the Riot Act and said, it's either you get on board with our policies and supporting this administration and stop campaigning for the presidency, or there's the door. Now, that was in September. We're only, October, we're only 6 months later. And now suddenly, I get it. I'm not here to begrudge a personal tragedy if her husband contracted a rare form of bone cancer. People who know my personal history know that my dad died from a very rare form of blood cancer, suffering for 10 years. So I'm not here to begrudge that, but that's not the reason she was canned. Let's go on. Then when she had literally nothing to do, having been sidelined by the administration in Venezuela, in Iran, in anything dealing with intelligence, Donald Trump relying more on John Ratcliffe, the head of the CIA, who technically reports to Tulsi Gabbard than Tulsi Gabbard herself, she was floundering and looking for something to do. The only lifeline, really, it's really an anvil or an anchor disguised as a lifeline that Trump threw at her was, well, you're an election denier. Get on the voter fraud issue. Get on the flipping votes from Trump to Biden issue. And that led her to have reportedly a close relationship with Kurt Olsen. Who's Kurt Olsen? Well, he's inside the administration as the director of what's his? He has a weird title. It's the director of election integrity. Sure. He's a MAGA election denier, conspiracy theorist of the first order. He's so out there that the first wave of Donald Trump's lawyers who captained Team Crazy, like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, they thought he was nuts. Yet he's in the government. And according to recent reports, his office, whatever that's supposed to be, and Tulsi Gabbard have been collaborating about the vote. Now, what is the Director of National Intelligence, which is supposed to be an outward-facing agency, not surveilling Americans? That's what the FBI is supposed to do, but related to foreign interference. So what is she doing lurking around the hallways, literally with a baseball cap drawn over her forehead, lurking around Fulton County, Georgia? While they're seizing boxes of votes and voter data and election equipment, because she had nothing better to do. And I think this was a way for her to get back into Donald Trump's good graces. But even there, she had a major misstep. When somebody that worked directly for her, a guy named Joe Kent, back in March, just days after the Iranian war started, he being the director of counterintelligence, that reports to the Director of National Intelligence and was the close number 2 to Tulsi Gabbard, he issued a noisy resignation letter of his own in which he said to the press and the public that Donald Trump was being led around by his nose by the Israelis and that the Iranians were not an imminent threat. And who can forget Tulsi Gabbard trying to defend Trump and Joe Kent and getting all tied up in knots during a Senate hearing? Play Tulsi Gabbard trying to save herself, but not successfully. Play it.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president
here's the problem.
Based on a volume
no,
of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States.
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
of
information and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House.
Right. Now you know why she's no longer the director of national intelligence. Now, look, do I think it's fair that 4 out of 6 of the women in the cabinet have all been canned and none of the men really? Nope. But that was the life that they chose. They're all incompetent. There's only 2 left. Brooke Rollins, the head of agriculture, and Linda McMahon, the head of education. Should Kash Patel have been fired before Tulsi Gabbard? Absolutely. And we've been calling for it on MeidasTouch and Legal AF from the get-go. Should Todd Blanche, especially after his performance over the last 72 hours related to the creating a fund to pay people who assault cops, should he, and wiping out tax liability for Donald Trump and his family dating back for the last 16 years? Yes, he should. Doesn't mean Tulsi Gabbard should be hanging on either. So, look, just like a football coach or basketball coach standing in front of a whole phalanx of microphones says, well, we had a losing record and we didn't win the Super Bowl, but I need to spend more time with my family. That's sort of what we're watching here. There's been too many knives out for Tulsi Gabbard for her to have survived. And it just makes me laugh looking back. And I know Ted Lieu is laughing. We'll probably try to get him on the show as well, Congressman Ted Lieu, because he reminded everybody as I started this hot take that Sean Duffy, the head of the Transportation Department, who's also outmatched, being on The Real World on MTV and Road Rules does not prepare you to be the transportation secretary. In any event, he once said, this is the best cabinet since 1776. And after the 3rd resignation, we're now up to the 4th, of Pam Bondi. Here's what Ted Lieu had to say.
February 25th of this year, Transportation Secretary Duffy posted a picture of Trump's cabinet and arrogantly boasted best cabinet since 1776. In less than 2 months, 3 of those cabinet secretaries are gone. Pam Bondi, Chrissy Noem, and now Lori Chavez de Reamer. I note that Lori Chavez de Reamer can now join Chrissy Noem at a fake position at the Shield of the Americas. The reality is that this cabinet's out of control incompetence and corruption have made it the worst cabinet since 1776, and Kash Patel is next.
So more facts are going to come out. I wanted to give you the real reason. So when you're talking about these things in the public square, right? The marketplace of ideas, you got some good talking points about the short, but not short enough tenure of Tulsi Gabbard. Will Donald Trump use this as an opportunity to upgrade the position and put somebody in who's intelligent into the position of a national intelligence director? No, I doubt it. He had an opportunity to upgrade the Federal Drug Administration. He picked somebody that has experience neither with food nor drugs. It regulates 1/4 of our economy. And yet it's a 38-year-old duck hunting buddy of Don Jr. I mean, that's who Donald, is Mark Wayne Mullen any more qualified than Kristi Noem for Homeland Security? He's quieter. Is Todd Blanche more qualified than Pam Bondi? He never uses the opportunity. I guess the point is to upgrade those positions. So no, I'm not holding out any great hope that the next person for national intelligence is going to be a real spy master, like somebody that's been in the CIA or national intelligence for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, somebody who earned the job. It should be a meritocracy to help keep America safe, right? Until she's gone and replaced properly, and Kash Patel is gone and replaced properly, we are insecure in this country because of Donald Trump. I'll continue to follow it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Come over to Legal AF YouTube. Help us continue to grow that channel. One more thing, Legal AF Substack. Yes, 40% sale all weekend. Hit the subscribe button and help us continue to grow our pro-democracy channels.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.